So today we're going to talk about a very important tool. We call this understanding yourself. And so there's a truth, and that is how we do one thing. How we do one thing is how we do everything. So how we do one thing is how we do everything. जिस हिसाब दे नाल असीं एक चीज़ करदे हैं ਅਸੀਂ ਉਵੇਂ ਹੀ ਸਾਰੀਆਂ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ. So how we do one thing is how we do everything. This is very, very important. How you do one little thing. So let's say you show up late. You have a hard time being on time. And you make excuses. Oh, the traffic was this and this and this and this. How we do one thing is how we do everything. So if you are late, what you're doing is you are breaking an agreement. So agreement, example, late. Agreements, contracts are of two kinds. They are implicit or explicit. Explicit is like a rental agreement. This is how much rent you're going to pay. This is the condition of you staying there. This is the detail. Implicit is if you're going to go live in a new place, you're going to be nice to the neighbors. No one's going to tell you that. It may not be written in the contract, but it's understood. It might not be written that you're gonna it might be written that you're not going to damage the property, but it may not be written that you're going to be nice to people. But you should be. If you tell someone you're going to meet them for coffee, you may not say, I'm going to meet you at coffee at 3 p.m., and it's not going to be written out, you're going to be on time, signed, date here. But it's assumed. If you tell someone you're going to meet them at 3 p.m. for the coffee, you're going to be on time. That's an implicit agreement. And so when you're late all the time, how we do one thing, what that means is you're breaking agreements all the time. I'm giving my example. I used to be very late all the time. And I thought, I'm a doctor, I'm busy, and then I would say, you know what, I'm better than I used to be. People used to wait 3 hours to see me in my family practice. And I would say, last minute, I was seeing a patient at the hospital, and they started having chest pain, and I had to assess them, but like every time? Really? Like there's something systematic about it. It's once in a while, sure, everyone understands, but every time? And so, actually, I was breaking agreements. I was breaking contracts. I was saying my word does not match my action. And how we do one thing, if I'm late, what that means is I don't take my agreement seriously. And it's true. When I started looking at myself, looking at the obligations and I would be breaking implicit agreements all over the place. Because I was self-centered. Self-centered people are late. Self-centered people are focused on themselves. In addiction, it's the disease of extreme self-centeredness. But you're not going to see it. You're going to see it once in a few places, right? And so this is a really helpful thing. how we do one thing is how we do everything. The same set of mechanics and whatnot that are in your body, in your mind, governing what you do, the same rules that you go by, if there's a corruption in one rule, it's probably going to show up in many places, not one. You know, we've had a Nam Academy on blocks. If you have one block, right, and you have like 4 sub-blocks, at Nam we like to go after the chief block. If you can see this and you can deal with it, all of a sudden all these go away too. So how you do one thing, if you can find one corrupted thing that you do in your life, you should say, wow, that's great. If you can find one thing that you're super self-centered in, instead of saying, like getting mad at someone who points it out, you should say thank you. Because they've given you a hint to a chief block, and then you can apply the recovery tools to deal with it and process it and move ahead. That's recovery. Because how we do one thing really is showing you how you're patterned. And I want you to not believe me. Examine one thing you do in life that people don't like, that you've gotten feedback about. Maybe you act superiorly to your wife. Chances are, if you're one of those people that has a marital conflict and you're like always trying to be better than her, you probably do it in other places. A lot of people, they're really good with like men. They're good with women at a distance, but the closer the women get, the more they apply these deep dynamics of hierarchy. And it destroys their relationships, but it's hard for them to see. But if they can see one, you can pretty much tell everyone else in that inner circle is going to be experiencing that same thing. If you can correct it in one place, you can correct it in all the places. So how we do that one thing, you know, some people, they fidget. You know, I used to fidget a lot. But how I do one thing is how I do everything. My mind wouldn't stop. Always going, always busy. When I stopped and I learned how to meditate, my mind calmed down and I stopped fidgeting. I would drop my phone so many times. So this is a really good kind of a quick thing for you to think about and use for self-analysis. Pick up, you know, on a page, write out how many sort of things that you do, that you have. And then think to yourself, well, if I do this in this way, Dr. Gill's saying how I do one thing is how I do everything, what else may I be sort of messing up? And you'll see how deep it goes, because it goes deep. Because humans are governed by rules and principles that are programmed from conception to today. And most of it's programmed between 0 and 11 years old. So how you do one thing is really determined by that programming. Corruption in the programming, so like bad childhood, all that stuff, right? Is going to show up not in one place, but in every place. And that's the neurobiological trauma, the neurobiology of trauma. That's how that works. So that's where I'll leave it. How we do one thing is how we do everything. Forgive me if I misspoke. Take what you like. Questions about this?
No.
Good.